What secret are you hiding from your family? I won $250 on a scratch-off ticket last year. Nobody in my family but my wife and I know. That when my in-laws passed they left us millions, enough to retire and travel the world. Last time I talked to my mother more than a year ago she made fun of my wife's white trash parents. Duck M. I grew up thinking I was part of the Zman and would train in the backyard swimming pool. My dad thought I was drowning one day because I held my breath underwater for so long so he jumped in to save me. I was in like 7th grade. I never told my dad holding my breath for as long as I could was part of my mutant training. I never told them I thought I was part of the Zman because I didn't want the government to get involved. I don't get forced to work holidays. I volunteer to work them to get out of family dinners. I dated a girl. Found out she was legitimately a psychopath and had been determined to be a psychopath by a psychologist. She ducked my head up really bad and left me suicidal for several months. I was close to suicide but I decided there were things I wanted to do before I die. And one of them was buy a sailboat and go on a long sailing trip. So I decided I would do that first. And if I still wanted to kill myself afterwards, I could do it then. I bought the boat in another state and sailed it to my home state over several hundred miles. And I don't want to kill myself anymore. That I talked my mom out of a suicide attempt. I volunteer at a suicide hotline. I often take calls from people on the brink of jumping or pulling the trigger. Everyone who calls us are anonymous to us on the caller display. I worked late one evening and got a call transferred to me from a lesser experienced responder because the person on the phone was very non-responsive to questions and apparently said they had a gun in their hands. When I picked up the phone and asked what their name was, I immediately recognized my mom's voice when she said her name. Funnily enough she mentioned that I sounded familiar, like her son. I asked if that was a problem to her, because then I could hand her over to my colleague. She told me no. At least I feel like I'm confessing to a person I love. Then she went on about her failed adulthood, a husband she didn't love anymore, rapes by her now deceased father etc. It was tough just sitting there and receive the burdens of a lifetime dumped onto you by your own mother. We talked for about 2 hours and she put away her gun. I heard it releasing the mag and hung up. I called my dad right after asking him where mom was. She had apparently just walked in the door when I called. Knowing their house, she must have been in the shed, dad's man cave. I don't know if she knew it was me or not, but she hasn't mentioned anything and I'm not going to. Edit. Deceased, not diseased. When I was 14, my friend and were drinking at my house when my parents weren't there. I lived in a small town and there wasn't much to do. Not that I'm defending 14-year-olds drinking. I'm just giving context. My sister, 4 years my elder, had a 1997 Honda Civic in the garage. My friend and I thought it would be a good idea to stealthily open up the garage door, push it down the road, hop in, turn it on, and go for a little joyride on the country roads. It was a rainy day so the roads were still slick, and I got the great idea to pull the e-brake and do a bit of a slide. I slide directly into a ditch. The front bumper mounts brake and the hubcap is slightly bent into the rubber of the wheel. We take it back home and begin to drunkenly try to fix it with zip ties and crowbars. It was a shoddy job but it held. About a week later, my sister gets into a low-speed car accident on that exact side of the bumper. She still doesn't know, but I bet the mechanic working on her car knew something was up. This was 13 years ago. I know my Uncle Joe is a rapist. Joe is a close family friend. He's been around my whole life. When I was a teenager, I walked in on my uncle during a Christmas party having sex with a girl I'll call Carmen, who was a couple of years older than me. I presumed it was sex because the noises were right and Carmen had a rep for being wild and preferring older men. Joe was married. I just thought he was being a D. In the 1980s, there was a bunch of unreported rapes in our town. It was an open secret. One night, when I was about 8, I accidentally overheard a very drunk Joe confessing to being the guy who did it. My father dismissed him, told he was a liar. I went away for a couple of months and came back. Someone told me Carmen was accusing Joe of rape. She was drugged and by the time she realized there'd been a rape, there wasn't any physical evidence left. Joe denied having sex with her. She went to the cops. Nothing had been done but the rumors got out. So I went to the police and gave a statement about that night and what I heard. Joe was questioned but it didn't go anywhere. My father wouldn't forgive me if he knew. I met my biological father and he is a lot like me. I've been forbidden from ever meeting the man since I was little. Donated sperm to multiple lesbian couples. Through private arrangement in the home, not through clinics. I have 3 kids and 3 more on the way. Right. So, my boyfriend is a pretty good cook and over the years there isn't really anything that I've been able to cook better than him. I try. He decided last spring that he really wanted to make all these different kinds of cake and they were all gorgeous apart from the red velvet one which he just couldn't seem to master. It was too soft and sunk a bit. I wanted to give it a try as well. So I bought all the ingredients and found a new recipe but my cake was still just as bad. I was pretty annoyed that I wasn't able to make it properly as before I met him I was really good at making cakes. So, I kinda went out and bought a pre-made Betty Crocker red velvet cake mix and made the most delicious cake ever from it and may have lied and said I made it from scratch. To this day I haven't told him and every time I say I'm going to make it I have to time it so he is out at work and take the Betty Crocker packaging to a bin far away from the house so he won't be suspicious. I am so ashamed but the feeling of triumphant cake making couldn't be any better. Worst part was his son asked me for the recipe a few weeks ago so he could try it in his cooking class at school for the end of the year and I had to make something up about how it was a secret recipe and it's the only thing I could cook better than his dad when in reality it's all a damn packet mix. Shame, shame, shame. A year ago, we got a new, massive wood dining table, which cost around $3,000. On the first day of ownership, I knocked over a glass of wine. The table was intended to get a blanket, but this was before there was a blanket on it. In panic, I cleaned it with a cotton cloth. Turns out, there was some sand or something on the cloth, left nasty scratches on the table. I covered it up with a blanket immediately. No one saw it. A few days later I ordered a rubber cover to put it under the tablecloth. Told my parents this would protect the table if someone knocks a glass of wine. They didn't notice because the rubber cover never gets removed. Only the tablecloth. How much I earn a month? I love my family but they love my money and I really don't earn that much to begin with. Not my family, friends. When I was 13 my best friend and I were at his sister's condo. We had to babysit his niece who was 5. We went to the complex pool and did normal kids stuff. The niece had water wings on and we were doing general pool grab bass stuff like jumping in, trying to flip, etc. The girl at some point had slipped out of her water wings. I looked over and saw an image that will be with me until I die. 2 yellow water wings floating on the water, and the girl 2-3 feet down, motionless, arms and legs hanging effortlessly, blonde hair spread out. My friend just screamed and froze. I had jumped in a pool to swim to her but don't remember deciding to do it. I was just moving. I came up under her and pushed her up. I had no thought, plan or clue. Just did. I pushed her out of the water and the force of my hand on her stomach pushed water out of her lungs. I got her to the side and my friend pulled her out. She coughed and started crying. My friend was afraid he'd get in trouble so we never spoke of it. The girl was too young and didn't say or recall. Now she's in her early 40s with 2 kids. Nobody knows it happened. Anyone doing the math? Yeah, I'm an old dude. My mum is more or less a non-practicing Muslim. She doesn't care that I'm queer or that I sleep around. But she'd lose her it if she knew how much I like bacon. My parents think I graduated college. Every time I try to tell them the truth, they tell me how proud they are of me. I feel guilty so I just play along. When I was doing my undergraduate degree, I worked as a prostitute for several months. I did not really need the money. I had a decent scholarship. I wanted the experience. I worked out of a legal brothel. I gave up when I got bored with it. They haven't seen me since I was a kid. They don't know I'm covered in tattoos now. It's fairly minor I guess nowadays. But I still reckon my mom would throw a fit. That I have no intentions of having a child and continuing our ducked up genealogy. They would be so sad if they knew. My mom especially would be disappointed. That I smoke pot all day every day and they frequently use me as an example of what you can be like if you aren't a stoner. I was sexually manipulated and assaulted by 2 of my babysitters when I was 6-8 years old. Has been a secret all this while, and that's the way it's gonna stay. How much I actually hate them for how they treated my mom and I when she was dying from cancer. I was the one who took care of her while they berated me and were rude as hell to my mom when she made my nephew and I executors of her will. Instead of them, they slandered me up and down and yelled at my mom for allowing me to make decisions for her. I had power of attorney. It was so bad that she had me help her make a video to tell them to stop being assholes to her and had me post it on Facebook. They did absolutely nothing to help her while she was dying. It was me, my nephew, Belly, and mom's best friend who took care of her. They put mom through so much more than what she was already going through. I don't know if I'll ever be able to face them without wanting to throat punch them. Nice try, CNN. I'm not giving you guys any ammunition. I don't think I'm very good at my job. They're the only reason I wake up every day. That when my mother-in-law passes, she is leaving my wife nearly $1 million in gold and silver, and that we have a safe with half the valuables in it. Not that my family, brothers, mother, father, etc. are thieves or anything. I just don't want them to suddenly start hanging around more and acting different. We grew up very poor and they might not know how to handle it. I don't want my wife resenting them thinking they will be trying to get some. She likes them fine now. I don't see any need to change that. I'm depressed because I'm lazy. I'm lazy because I'm depressed. My family thinks I proposed to my wife at a fancy dinner. In reality, we were at a music festival coming down off MDMA at 6 AM. The sun was coming up. It was beautiful and just the perfect moment. Excuse me while I log into my other account. I suffered from recurrent pregnancy loss before having my daughter. They knew I had a miscarriage, but not that I had many. I think it's just too painful. My 3 large tattoos, one on the outside of each thigh, and one on my left hip. Sister knows but parents don't. I'm 27 and feel like I should just get over it and tell my mom. Dad wouldn't care, but he wouldn't be able to keep the secret. But she's deeply traditionally conservatively Korean and she would honestly be really sad and angry. It doesn't benefit her to know and it doesn't benefit me to have her to know. It would just cause both of us pain and estrangement. There's no point. I'll tell her when I have to, but right now my lips are sealed. Then I am B. But mostly because it is none of their business. Part to this account. I generally not speak about that. I don't want any rumors. It is one thing to date a guy and he knows that you are B. Guys are more open about that. But try to hit on a girl when she knows that you also like guys. It is not the best thing for a first date that she imagines you with another guy. If I ever start a relationship, this will come when I think she likes me enough to be open for this. Currently hiding from my grandparents that I'll be taking my fiance's last name when we get married. My mom suggested I should wait until after the wedding to tell them, or else my grandpa might get upset and not go, then regret not going after the fact. I was engaged once before and mentioned to them that time that I wanted to change to the original spelling of our name and they didn't seem thrilled. And even after that relationship dissolved, it was brought up frequently. And my current fiancé and I got engaged. They joked that I had been penciled into the will pending what my last name turned out to be. That really pissed me off because it felt like they were trying to buy me. I don't care if I'm in the will, I just want a good relationship with them. Getting an inheritance comes at too great of a cost. Their lives. I do hope they don't write me out just because I don't want my last memory of them being that they wanted to tell me duck you from beyond the grave. All will be well in the end. As long as I'm married to my beautiful fiancée, I'll be happy. Reasons for those curious. I've hated my last name for as long as I can remember. I like the way my name sounds with hers. And she's always been fond of her name, so it works out great for us. The wrong brother died 2 years ago. My younger brother was sweet, caring and patient. My older brother is a sociopath who used to beat me simply for the pleasure of exerting power over someone. He has ducked up his body through an addiction to prescription painkillers, but my parents will never see it. Our father once walked in on him stomping on me with military boots he got just for the purpose, and asked why I had provoked him. I was 6 and my brother was a teenager. I was molested as a child by a camp counselor. I've only told my closest friends. I don't want my family to know. Edit. Thanks for the support everyone. I've been passing out a lot lately at the sight of any blood, even a scratch. My family says I'm getting sensitive, that I'm turning into a wuss. When the truth is last year before my boyfriend and I broke up, he tried to kill himself in my presence. There was so much blood. I never told them. That college has been one of the most soul-crushing, depressing times of my life, and I'm seriously considering leaving just because I'm so damn lonely. Pretty much. That I wouldn't be bothered a bit if I never had to see any of them again. I show up to family functions and I'm nice to people, but they are just completely horrible people, and I'm so glad I moved away and only have to see my mother a few times a year and my sisters even less. After my mom and dad got divorced, I was 21 at the time. I had to use all of my life savings to pay for the house that they were fighting over. My mom knows I was paying for it, but she doesn't know how much money I had to use, and we've never talked about it. I lost about $12,000. Also that I was depressed at the time for about a year or so because my mom was depressed and I wasn't in contact with my dad anymore. I am now. We're even closer now. The money thing. And I almost lost my job at the time. I had nobody to talk to. All my siblings were busy with their families. My friends were moving on to other things. Luckily one person helped me through it all. Someone I consider to be almost a lost brother to me now. Someone that happened to be a stranger on the internet that I met on an anime forum. He talked to me pretty much every day, and it wouldn't just be about nerdy stuff. We would talk about everything that was happening to me in my life and his life. We would talk about pretty much everything. It helped me through the tough times so much, and I don't know if he'll ever understand how much it meant to me. Since then one of my biggest ideals in life is communication. And I now see each random internet user as an individual person rather than just a username. Love you Reddit and random strangers from the internet less than 3. That fact that I wanted to die most of the time.